Welcome to WideNet Gaming. Today looking at the video game industry and how it is separated into three types of games. So I'm going to look at the biggest and then go
What's so
down
funny?
to the smallest, where it is a single
I told
developer
you.
or a small team.
There's a high price to pay for all of this.
Now the first type of game, the one that people are the most familiar with, are AAA games. These are the games that they have a sizable budget, millions of dollars. Equivalent would be like big blockbuster movie. And a lot of these, movies even have a smaller budget than some of these games, like Red Dead Redemption 2, even God of War on PS4 had these, enormous budgets. But these are the type of games when they're coming out, oftentimes by the holidays, and there's less of them too, so it's easier to keep track. Now, there's benefits and negatives to all three types of games, but the purpose of this video is just to give you pros and cons of each, and then how it relates to someone that is reviewing a particular game, the various things that they take into consideration. Now, with AAA games, going over the pros first, graphics, just looking at it,
He's not
they
safe.
look the prettiest,
Hartleys are out
whether
there.
they
You're
pick
right.
a more cartoony style
Sora.
or are opting for
Donald.
realism.
Goofy.
These look the best. Also, how
Any
well
chance
they
you could
run.
help us one last time?
Here you're seeing a lot of cutscenes, but even during
Thanks,
gameplay, they usually run pretty well. They're catering to the mass market and looking to have people play for a while, in direct competition with these other big budget games. The also kind of along with that as well, compared to the other two, is what you're getting. Big budget games play it safe, AAA, because they have to. It's very, very expensive and risky to be making these games. So, in terms of the mechanics, the story, there's this built-up specific fan base. They're trying to get new people, but it's like you hear things like casual, where they may make the mechanics more friendly rather than, and this can compromise the gameplay development in the overall direction it goes. The example I have for a AAA game would be Kingdom Hearts 3. I just reviewed this past week. Falls well within it, and this one took several years, and is a good example of the playing it safe to a degree and trying to get more people. I mentioned the more kind of casual mechanics, but which is fine. But then you have the less depth too. But this gets more people in. They can easily play, like me as an example. I've never played past games. It's easy to pick up and play, because even if I ignore things, it doesn't have much of an impact. But the benefit is you are getting a quality product, and you know what you're getting. And this is, the majority of the people, when they're playing a game on console especially, what they are looking for. Now, the negatives are something that people are much less aware of, and even looking at game reviews, they're kind of even half accepted when people talk about them. And these would be things like, besides playing it safe, Kingdom Hearts fall into that, but microtransactions. This is where the money has a negative impact, and this with AAA games, this negatively impacts development. You have cosmetics, and you even have things that affect mechanics, like you might get a stronger weapon, a stronger item. But even the cosmetics one, which has kind of been accepted, even by me too, what this does is it means you don't get more creative content, or even like single player if it's a multiplayer game, or vice versa, where it is expanded upon. The second category, I more so made up. There is a term called AA, and there's like single A, B, where they're negatively rating a game. I lump these all into like a AA game. Now, price-wise, these are somewhere within $25 to $50, where a AAA game is going to be $50 on up. AA games are much broader. Some of these are older games in that price point. But the main difference between AA and AAA is you have a much smaller budget, but it is still big enough to make a game that looks prettier. Game I reviewed a while ago, Friday the 13th. the game falls more into this category, especially since it released under that price point. Now, even though face value, looking at it, kind of looks like, even if you haven't heard of the game, many of these games look similar to AAA games, but it's focused more on a single aspect idea. Comparing the two games, like Friday the 13th, it's only multiplayer basically. There's a little bit of single player content, but it is centered around that. And if it doesn't have a story, it's going to be more gameplay mechanic-wise. Like there isn't as many, like with cutscenes, this heavy overarching story. It's more focused on the gameplay, or otherwise it can often be, if it's story focused, then it revolves more around that, but in an interactive way, not where you're watching something like a cutscene, or it functions more in a linear way, where one thing's happened and then another thing, or your choices kind of don't matter. Now, the pros of AA games are they're a little more creative. You're going to get something different. The hard part is they're under the radar. Like, they don't have as much marketing. You're not going to hear about them as much. Friday the 13th, that one was a little bit more popular, but not near as much advertisement as something like Call of Duty or Kingdom Hearts 3 in terms of news articles. And the other negative would be glitches, and this affects AA games the most after development. They're expensive enough that they are hard to fix. An example with this game in particular is the car glitch, which I also mentioned in the review, that you hit a place and then you either float down and you're stuck, and this other funny one, not as common, is actually stuck under the bridge. So this, more of a big negative. Not always game-breaking. State of K2 is another example. This is exclusive on Xbox that has some things where a car gets stuck, or the AI, and it gets trickier to fix because they're complicated enough that they are more difficult to fix. Third type of game I'm going to talk about is indie games. This is a single developer to a small team, and they may have a publisher, but the distinction between AAA and even AA games is money impacts these games negatively the least. And this is because there's less people working on it, there's no established fan base, it's developers that are making games they just want to make, and that is the simple difference, and that is their priority. So these games usually are centered around a single idea. The one I reviewed, Kingdom, New Lands, Two Crowns, is an example. Just going left to right, and it's centered around building. There's often less story in these games, where there's like cutscenes and whatnot, and it is more gameplay oriented, and immediately by playing them, within an hour at the most, whether you're going to like it. And that's a benefit too, and it's something different from what you've played. They require a lot of research, unfortunately. The best place to go, I find, is on Steam, online, and just look up any genre of a game. Look for that $10 to $20 price point, thereabouts, and you're looking at indie games. Be careful with ones in early access, though. Those are unfinished. Some are on there a long time. I've had fun with some, though, like Darkest Dungeon. I liked it better in early access, actually. But look for that as well to know if a game is finished. There's more of a risk there, but they're worth checking out. They're cheaper. They don't take long to play, and you're getting your money's worth when you buy an indie game, when you find one you like. And it's a much more unique experience as well compared to the other two. In summary, with AAA, you know what you're getting. Beware of microtransactions, $50 to $60 price point. AA, you kind of have that to a lesser degree too. Look for that more single idea. And then with indie, it requires the most research, just looking for something that you like and watching out for that early access. So, anyway, thanks for watching the video. I hope this helps you as a consumer. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.